Good evening and welcome to Wisdom Walk Talk here on Black Hole Radio and my YouTube channel, Wisdom Walk to Self-Mastery. I am Jojopa Maria Ensaroma, the fiery essence that came out of the water to be a vessel for the divine, and I'm your host tonight. As always, I am going to open first with honoring our ancestors. Please join me. Creator, Mother, Father, God, Source, all the one, all that is. May the ancestors hear our prayers. Ancestors, 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 we call out to you during this time of the change and ask you to guide us to our courage, confidence, and compassion. Enable us to stop being in resistance to this new age and new earth consciousness, and guide us gently and lovingly into our personal renaissance. As we dare to live our new narratives, enable us to remember that these are divinely scripted for ourselves and for our world. And most importantly, Creator, enable us to move forth from the dark ages of modernity by placing our heads below our hearts, valuing people over profits, and always choosing love over fear. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Amen. Asher Ho'asa, Shinga Bismillah, and so it is. Wow. So here we are, folks, and August is the second and final nature month in this double fire year of 2022. And this month I am talking about the change, which is what I'm calling the cumulative impact of the persistent global pandemic, worsening climate changes, nonstop violence from war and mass shootings, and other traumatic and radically life-altering conditions happening on a daily basis. These things impact us personally, and unless we take time to notice, contemplate, and accept the change, we are doomed to be at odds with it, and the experience will feel like a curse indeed. So join me for this final part of my broadcast about the change as I discuss how we can enter our personal renaissance as a result of all of this shifting that is going on. I don't know about you all, but this end part of August, always was, because back in the day when I was growing up, you didn't go back to school until after Labor Day. And so these were kind of your precious last days of being able to sleep in as long as you needed to, or be outside all day with your friends at Goodhue Park. And those of you out there listening know Staten Island, you know what I'm talking about. It was just this kind of downtime, and it's been that for me, but I also know that for other people there is a lot of going on. And I can feel that there is a lot of unspoken fear based on what people are moving through. There's been so much that's happened that we have not dealt with as a country, as a community, as a culture, as a global community, in terms of how things have changed and are changing. So there is kind of this, kind of underground bubbling up fear that can definitely be exploding out in very unpleasant and even dangerous ways. So I just want to encourage all of us to really pause, to really give ourselves breaks. Don't wait for somebody to tell you you need a break or it's time for a break. Give yourself a break and just let yourself get still and breathe and feel the tension, the tightness, the fear that is going on. Why? So that you can release it. Yes, 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 yes. Because it's when it's underground, when we're not paying attention to it, that it really can run our lives. So, again, that's my opening encouragement for you tonight. And hopefully, the information I'm going to share with you in my spiritual spill, as well as the elemental wisdom I'm about to share, will help you in navigating through what is a very, very challenging time here on planet Earth. Okay, now let's get into my spiritual spill for this week. And I'm talking about the change, but this time not about resistance, but about the Renaissance. So here's my overview. I'm going to talk about what the change is, again, do a quick review, and also what Renaissance means, and then why the change can be your Renaissance. Then I'll go over 5 ways to support you in 5 things you can do to support yourself, in moving into your Renaissance. And then, of course, I'll give you a PGO, a personal growth opportunity. My quotes for tonight, and there's 2 of them. The first one is from Oprah Winfrey. And Oprah says, "The greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change his future by merely changing his attitude." The next quote comes from Jeremy Rifkin. He's an American economic and social theorist, a climate activist, and an author of the best-selling book, The Third Industrial Revolution. And Jeremy says, "What I'm suggesting to you is that this could be a renaissance. We may be on the cusp of a future which could provide a tremendous leap forward for humanity." Ashe, wonderful, wonderful. So, the change in all capital letters. Here's what it is in a nutshell. It's whatever has to happen personally, globally, and cosmically to bring us back into balance and in alignment with the realities of the 21st century and the creation of the new earth. Yes, and I will definitely be doing some broadcasts on that. And here's a quote from, again, Angeles Arrien, a great anthropologist, author of The Fourfold Way, which this quote comes from. And it just kind of nails it so well in regards to what I'm talking about. And Angeles says, "For many people, the ideals of the Industrial Revolution toward more progress, more development, and greater wealth no longer seem relevant. Yet we have trouble letting them go. But if we are to survive in the 21st century, we must reconsider our priorities." Yes. And so the change is here to help us do that. And this is why it can be a renaissance for us. Now, what do I mean by renaissance? Well, first, in the classic sense, renaissance is a word, comes from the French, and it basically means rebirth. The European Renaissance, which most people are familiar with, comes 1,000 years after the fall of Rome, and it lasted from the 14th through the 17th centuries, okay? And it was a revival and a revealing of art, literature, science, architecture, new religious and political ideas, and most importantly, a zest for learning things new. Now, it comes on, and I really believe was ushered in by the plague, which shows up in Europe in the 1400s. So that was similar to what COVID is for us, right? This global pandemic, something that really shifts up the daily routine and the norms of what is going on in a society. The other Renaissance you need to know about, because again, hopefully everybody does know about it, but this one happened in Harlem. Yeah, right in New York. And it came 40 years after the end of slavery. And it lasted from the 1910s until the 1930s. And it was rooted in a reconceptualizing of the Negro, which black people were called then, to dispel and cancel stereotypes created by white people. And it was also a revival and a revealing of art, literature, science, as well as the influence of jazz and classical music. People don't realize that it wasn't just jazz or the classical music that black people were also involved in and performing and developing. Photography, entrepreneurship, and a reconnection with Africa. Yeah. You know, my grandfather, he was born in 1908, and he shared a memory with me of getting on the train from Wilmington, Delaware, and going up to New York, going to Harlem, probably him and my grandma, and they walked around and just felt so at home. They felt so safe. And this was probably in maybe like 1925, 1928, when they had just first met. And he just talked about, you know, what it felt like, that this was a sanctuary for black people. And you felt proud when you were there, and you felt important. And, you know, because Wilmington, Delaware at the time was very much a part of Jim Crow. So I share that with you because that feeling of their safety, there is openness, you know, their sanctuary, that's what the Renaissance energy is really all about. It's a moving us in from a place of fear and into a place of curiosity, of openness, and beauty. Lots of beauty comes out of Renaissance periods. So let's look at this when we talk about it on a personal level. And so here's what an inner Renaissance is. Here's my definition for you. It's a reawakening, a rebirthing, and a revealing of the authentic self through the remembering and unfettered expression of your gifts, talents, and genius that you may have kept hidden or underutilized. It is a commitment to having a zest for learning and how to live your true purpose in life. Yes, yes. Isn't that just wonderful? And by the way, I did do a series of videos on the Inner Renaissance back in September of 2020. So if you go to my website, not my website, but to my YouTube channel, Wisdom Walk to Self-Mastery, and look at the playlist for September 2020, you'll get access to all of it. And I take a deeper dive into, you know, what it all means and how we go through a process to have an inner renaissance. And our inner renaissance journey is a journey toward self-actualization, self-mastery, and personal sovereignty. You're able to be in the world without making anyone or anything but yourself responsible for your joy, your fulfillment, and your happy endings in life. Yeah. Exactly. You're not a victim and believe there is treasure in trauma and that the world is out to gift you. You're not afraid to use and share your gifts, talents, and genius to contribute to the wellness and happiness of others and yourself. Yeah. So again, self-actualization, self-mastery, and personal sovereignty. That's what an inner renaissance journey is taking us to. And that's why it's important. You know, I also shared in my last video, and then again back in January of 2020, the 3 major shifts that I believe are so needed during this new age, during the 21st century, to bring humanity back into balance with being humans. And the first is we need to go from being consumers to stewards of the earth and each other. We need to go from being mindless workers, I just got to survive, I just got to get my retirement, to mindful contributors, yes. And then we need to go from being compliant to creative. Very, very important. And so none of that's going to happen unless we do go through our Renaissance period. And so here's 5 ways to support your Renaissance as a result of the change. Because remember, the change is really designed to disrupt things, to break things up, to blow things away, to, make a mess, so that you now have an open forum, a clean slate, a blank slate, where you can say, okay, let me see what it is I can now be doing that I wasn't doing before, and what new things can I learn based on the way things now are. And remember, we have to embrace there's no going back. It's just like when the first Renaissance in Europe happened, they knew they couldn't go back to the medieval lifestyle that they had before. Something had to shift. Some things were shifting, and they had to embrace that. So here's the 5 ways. And they are the antithesis, the opposite of what I gave you for what it looks like when you're being in resistance to the change. So here's when you're using the change as your Renaissance. First, you're in victor consciousness. Yes, you are believing that the world is out to gift you, not get you. Next, you're committed to being here. Yes, you're remembering and enacting your highest purpose, consciously avoiding unnecessary exposure to COVID, doing healthy eating and lifestyle, and, just really, really, really doing things to keep yourself present, to keep yourself aware, awake, again, back to that zest for learning. Yeah. But you're not sitting up doubting and worrying, should I be here? Am I supposed to be here in the 21st century? No, you embrace it and you say, yes, I'm supposed to be here, and I'm going to demonstrate my commitment to being here. Number 3, seeing yourself and others as divine beings on a human journey. I really love this one because this is about accepting and transcending the mess. And yeah, that's a whole nother video I'll do for you about transcending the mess. But clearly, when you can see yourself and others as divine beings, larger than just this 3D reality, but pushing it out into a 5th dimensional understanding about our existence, that we all come out of this void, that we all come from the same source, I think then we can have more compassion for what is happening and how it's happening, and we can let go of being in that judgment and that anger and that bitterness, and remembering that, in our existence it takes all kinds. So you're going to have the good, the bad, and the ugly, and everything in between. And your job is to stay focused on you and do what you need to do for you, and not think that your job is to take on trying to get somebody to be like you. That's a waste of your time and energy. So seeing yourself and others as divine beings on that human journey, really, really important. That's why that forgiveness piece is so important. Yes. Number 4, nurturing, valuing, and contributing your unique gifts, talents, and genius in a healthy, balanced, and loving manner. Yes, rather than ignoring them or doubting them. This is full on, yes, I can do this, or yes, I want to be able to do this, and I want to do it better. Nurture, value what it is that you uniquely bring into this world. Yeah, don't waste your time comparing yourself to other people. Not a good use of your time and energy. And then last but not least, the 5th way that you can support your Renaissance as a result of the change is to embrace the unknown and mystery of life. This is about co-creating through faith in a greater order and direction, or a God. And know that it's okay to have your plan. Just don't be attached to it. Really accepting that, there is an intelligent, I don't even know what to call it, because it's not an entity, it's not a cell, but there's an intelligence, let's just call it that, out there that really knows much more than we could imagine. So let's stop wasting our time staying attached to our plans and realize that there is this mystery in life, and we can embrace that, we can acknowledge it, and be okay. Be okay with not knowing, which I know is a hard thing to do based on public school education, because if you don't know, you're going to fail. But this is different. This is about really letting go of thinking you have to have it all figured out in order to breathe. There's this wonderful book called The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo, N-E-P-O. I've quoted him before, but it's a 365-day offering of these beautiful poetic pieces of contemplative work. And this one was for, I believe, the 17th of this month, called Each is a Living Flute. But his quote is, in an insidious way. And insidious means proceeding in a gradual, subtle way, but with harmful effects. So in an insidious way, the more we refuse mystery, the more responsible we feel for all that befalls us. Yeah. Again, back to ego, overinflated ego, and trying to take on what you just really can't take on. It's not for you. It's not your job. And again, when we can stay in the mystery, we leave that alone and we open up to what? We open up to learning what the resolution is to be, how it is to be. Yeah. So here's my contemplative exercises for you. Some questions to ask yourself and some guidance to do, very much in alignment with the resistance exercise I gave. And this is shifting into your renaissance. Number 1, I suggest that you identify one way that you are already in support of your renaissance from the change. Yeah. Number 2, set an intention to learn how to more deeply nurture and grow that behavior. Yes. So for example, if it's victor consciousness, keep working on that. Keep growing that. Number 3, commit to a 40-day daily practice of asking and thanking your God, ancestor, spirit guides, and loving entities to bring you everything and everyone you need to nurture and grow this renaissance behavior. Yes, the gratitude prayer. And then lastly, once you've completed your 40 days on one behavior, move on until you've called on help daily for the next 4 behaviors. Yeah. And that should take you into December for sure. Definitely. That's what we want. For the rest of the year, just really strengthening and growing our ability to embrace the change as an opportunity for renaissance and to move away from being in resistance to it. Yeah. Really important. So my Sara saying for tonight is the one from last week, and it is, life always supports us in where we prefer to be, and life always supports us in whatever changes we prefer to make. Ashe, wonderful. Thank you, Spirit of Miss Sara, for that. So we have come to the end, and I'm going to close out as always with thanking my wonderful engineer, Miss Yvette Parker, and the entire Black Hole Radio Be Well family for their continued support in giving me platform so that I can share my insights, my wisdom, and hopefully my inspiration with you to be able to navigate through the change. I also want to shout out to all my regular listeners out there, those who have wisdom walk with me and you know who you are, and to my family on both coasts and in the middle of the country, and to my spiritual kin everywhere, my transformational leadership colleagues, my medicine sisters and brothers around the world, and those who are listening or watching for the first time. Thank you. Big thank you. I seriously couldn't do this without you and your willingness to listen and watch. And last but not least, I want to thank my God, my ancestors, my spirit guides, loving entities, everything that walks with me, keeps my head to the sky, my feet to the ground, and my heart open to do this important work with and for all of you. So please have a very healthy and safe Earth and Fire weeks coming up, giving support and embracing and practicing forgiveness. Now, continue to wear your mask. We're in a time where it's easy for people to think that, oh, well, most people are vaccinated. It's good, it's good. This variant is such that people can have it, not have any symptoms, not even test positive. And so if you're not taking the safety measures like wearing a mask, keeping your distance, it's easy to contract it. And I know several people within the last couple of weeks that's how it's happened. So, you know, the person just didn't have symptoms, so they thought they were safe to be around. And they came off of a plane. That to me is never safe. Anyway, strengthen your immune system too. That's the other important thing to do. And again, practice safe relating, even if it's family members, even if it's friends. Wash those hands frequently. Use the alcohol. It really helps. Avoid perceived safety and practice the science safety. We're dealing with a microorganism, folks. It wants to live. It's clear. It wants to live. So if you give it a chance to come into your body, yeah, it's going to live. And most importantly, please remember, you are not disposable. In fact, you are divine. Good night now.